It's time to make some noise. It's time to sound off. Welcome to Sound Off Sports. On today's show, we're talking everything about the NFC, AFC championship games. It's finally here. We break them down. Plus, the all-time leading rusher in Rams history. Yes, Steven Jackson, the three-time Pro Bowler, joins us in studio. But first, we start with your sounding off on, yes, the Raiders stripping that interim tag and making Antonio Pierce the head coach. Let's go.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports.
Welcome to Sound Off Sports. I'm Mike Davis, your host, joined by producer James Edward Barrickman IV. We're starting off the show with what you guys had to say. You're sounding off when it comes to the Raiders stripping that interim tag and making Antonio Pierce the head coach of this football team. Let's hear what Terry had to say from Laughlin.
Hi, my name's Terry. I live in Laughlin, Nevada. And I think it's the greatest thing that Mark Davis has done, putting Antonio Pierce as the head coach since he got John Gruden. Have a wonderful day. Great year next year. Bye-bye.
What a lovely man, Terry. You have a wonderful day as well. You know what? I agree with him. I think this is a great move. Players want him. Fan base wants him. I think it's a no-brainer.
No, I agree. Mark Davis's hands were kind of tied, as you mentioned, because the fan base clamoring for him, the team clamoring for him. Max Crosby reportedly would have asked for a trade if they didn't hire him, so I don't think he had much of a choice, especially going back to the whole Bisaccia situation where he was named interim after John Gruden stepped down, leads the team to the playoffs, and then is let go in favor of McDaniels, and we saw how that went. So I think Mark Davis is really just trying to avoid making the same mistake twice.
Yeah, all right. Well, we got another caller. He didn't give a name, so we're going to go with John Doe. He feels a little differently. Let's hear what he had to say.
That wasn't the right decision. I get it. The players love him. The fans chant his name as he's trotting off the field, but it's just not going to work. Seldom does assistant coaches who are elevated to head coach become successful. What the Raiders need is a good head coach, with a lot more than just 2 years experience on the defensive side of the ball, which is what AP has. We needed to take a big swing, tried to get Harbaugh. Davis didn't do that. He's a great guy. I get it. He's the emotional choice. AP is, but it's going to be another season of mediocre results. We'll be lucky to get to 500.
All right, so I disagree, and I know a lot of people want head coaches that are offensive-minded, but let's think about this. Yes, it's a catch-22. In order to get that experience, you need to have that experience, but he has the experience, AP. He has been the head coach of this team. He went 5-4. He did a great job. So a lot of the hires you would be getting in that space wouldn't have that experience. So I like this hiring. I think you got to go with the team's identity. You want to go offensive-minded, but who is the quarterback on this team? We don't have the future franchise QB on this roster. The brand, the identity of this team is right now on the defensive side of the ball, and that's with Max Crosby, and I think that's where you got to kind of stay. So if Max Crosby wants AP, if the fans want him, if the locker room wants him, I think you got to go with a leader of men, and I think AP is that guy.
No, but that's the entire knock on Antonio Pierce, is that he's not experienced. He's only been coaching in the NFL for 2 seasons. His only prior head coaching experience was as a head coach of a high school football team in California. But as you mentioned, they did go 5-4, so that's got to mean something. He's a leader of men. The team loves him. And he's been paired with an experienced GM in Tom Telesco. So if I'm a Raiders fan and I'm a little concerned about the head coach hire, Tom Telesco would make me feel a lot better.
Yeah, he hit on a lot of players: Derwin James, Keenan Allen, Herbert, a lot of great picks, Asante Samuel Jr. So I like that. And also, I think in today's age, you need a head coach who can relate to players. He did it. He was a linebacker for those Giants teams. He won a Super Bowl, so I definitely like that. But let's move on now to everything that's happening this weekend. Yes, we got to talk about everything with the NFC and AFC championship games. We're finally know what's going to happen. We got Lions, we got 49ers, and of course we got Chiefs and Ravens. I was thinking it was going to be the Bills, James. That was my team going through the Super Bowl. I'm a little shocked that we're here. What do you think about these matchups?
No, I agree. I thought we were going to have Buffalo versus Baltimore as well, but here we are, man. Kansas City did it to them one more time.
It's crazy. A pounding by the Ravens against the Texans, 34-10. 49ers pull out that victory against the Packers. tough game with kickers, as well as 49ers. Bucks and Chiefs Bills. So here's what I'm thinking. I think home field advantage makes a major difference in the playoffs. We see fundamental football making a big difference in the playoffs as well. Teams that can run the ball, teams that tackle, teams that don't turn the ball over. So here's who I'm picking leading in to the Super Bowl. I like the Lions. I know they're America's team right now. I like them to beat the 49ers, especially if there's no Deebo Samuel. Let's just look at this. Jared Goff, in the 2 playoff games, 564 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. If Detroit plays like that, if Goff plays like that, I think they're going to punch a ticket into Super Bowl 58. And I hate to go against the Ravens and Lamar and the way they've been looking, but I really think you can't go against Mahomes and the Chiefs. Pacheco looked good. Valdez-Scantling looked good. Kelce looked good. If playmakers are showing up to play like they have, I think it's going to be tough to beat the Chiefs. And, man, Mahomes is something special to watch, James, right?
Yeah, no, Mahomes, 6 AFC title games in his
Crazy.
6 seasons as a starter. So he's really hard to bet against, but I think this Baltimore team is different. You look at that home field advantage they have, that defense, that run game, and Lamar. I mean, he's probably the MVP. I think Baltimore is just going to be too much to handle given Kansas City's lack of weapons this year.
We'll see what happens. My favorite thing that is going around social right now is the fact that Brock Purdy is making $870,000 this season, and how much is Lamar Jackson making? $80 million. So a little difference, but there's a lot of different ways to construct a roster and personnel in the league, and there are a lot of different ways to get to the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens, but let's go to sink or swim. This week, we're talking about the great, the man of the people, the football guy, Jason Kelce. Yes, a future Hall of Famer, a 6-time All-Pro at the center position. From a football standpoint, we know what this guy has done on the field. It's a pleasure to watch this guy play football. I mean, as an undersized 6'3" center, the way that he pulls and goes upfield and makes that upfield block, it's a beautiful sight to see for fans of football. But let's give you a little history on this guy before the major display we saw at Buffalo when it comes to leaving the luxury box and just smashing that beer. But let's talk about his development as a player. He went to University of Cincinnati. He actually was a walk-on at the running back position, shifted to fullback, and ultimately made his way to the offensive line. He was a 6th-round draft pick by Andy Reid in Philadelphia, and what he has done to be an undersized 6'3", 295 lineman is a pretty impressive thing. But I think it's a beautiful sight to see this guy finally getting his due. We're all in love with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and that love story, but Jason Kelce finally made a grand debut, I think, on a national scale. And it wasn't just about how he interacted with the Bills Mafia and how much fun he had. I don't think there's another player in the NFL who could play for the Eagles, root for the Chiefs, and also hang out with Bills fans and just be loved by everybody. But he's been this type of character for a long time. We've seen him just recently in the past week or two go to his local McDonald's and actually do his usual order of 2 sausage, egg and cheese, and a large coffee, but he signed a jersey for Superfan and his favorite employee, Danielle Bonham. And he also did a lovely thing when he kind of mounted from the luxury box, went down to the Bills Mafia, and he identified Ella Piazza, an 8-year-old girl who's a Bills fan and also a super Swiftie fan, right? Well, he holds her up, makes sure her sign, and she gets her little moment waving to Taylor Swift. It was a beautiful sight to see. But this guy has been having great moments for a long time. 2018, that's when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. He had a great speech. He had a great Mother's Day outfit. He's been a man of the people for a long time. He even has his own Christmas album with fellow linemen Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. So it was all for charity. He's a great guy. I'm happy he's finally getting his due. It's a special thing to see. So future Hall of Famer, Jason Kelce, we clap it up for you. Coming up after a short break, guess what? We got the all-time leading rusher for the Rams in studio. Yes, Steven Jackson. He's giving us his picks coming up after the break.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
Welcome back to SOS. We have in the house, in the studio, the all-time leading rusher for the Rams. Yes, it's Steven Jackson, also born and bred Las Vegas guy. Steven, it's great to be with you.
Thank you, Mike. Good to see you.
You look like you could play right now, dude.
I'm trying to keep it that way, I don't know if I could go for 4 quarters, but at least I can get you to halftime.
I think, hey, a lot of rosters would like to have you. Let's talk about this. When you started in the league, right, I mean, the way the league has shifted, running backs were a premium when you were playing. To have a guy like Steven Jackson on your roster, it was a big deal. Today we're seeing how the league has shifted, but I think when you get back to playoff time football, we see teams with really good rushing games succeeding in the playoffs. Tell us about how you think the evolution of the running back position has really shifted over these recent years.
I think you're right. Towards the early 2000s, the shift started to happen then, where a lot of teams went from one premier guy to more having running back by committee. And because of the length of the seasons and the shortness of the position, most teams that went to have the insurance route, right? Rather have 2 or 3 guys rather than just one main guy. And that's really diluted the market for the running back position. But you're right. Then when you get to January and February, it brings it back into focus. So teams got to be really balanced in their approach about what kind of guy they want to bring in. For instance, Detroit Lions took a running back with the 12th pick overall last year.
Right.
And it's really worked out for them. Where others look to have that, that luxury guy like Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City. So it depends on philosophy, how you look at things. But when you get to January and February, when the games are cold, most defensive backs, most defenses don't want to tackle for 4 quarters. And you see that every week.
Hey, the Eagles didn't want to tackle for 1 quarter. Let's talk about this. When you look at an Isaiah Pacheco, first of all, he runs weird. What is that? What is his gait, the way that he runs?
He has a gait that looks like get out the way.
There's something strange with that. Yeah. But when you watch Isaiah Pacheco, when you watch Jahmyr Gibbs, or Bijan Robinson, who was drafted early as well, do you watch them and you're like, oh, Pacheco is a dime a dozen, but Jahmyr Gibbs, Robinson, they have something special? Or is Pacheco cut from the same cloth, you really think?
I think they're actually all 3 different kind of backs, to be honest with you. I think they're all outstanding and they have their strengths. Isaiah is perfect for weather. Long-term, long-haul kind of, playoff kind of run where you can ride Patrick through the whole season, but once you get to the playoff games, you have this big back that can wear down a defense. Where you go to Atlanta or you go to Detroit, these are guys that are more used at like receivers out of the backfield, put them in open space, they're going to make guys embarrassed. It all depends, again, the approach of the offensive coordinator and the team, the identity of what they want to have. Most teams are looking for someone that's going to just set the tempo and show the other defense that we're not here to play.
I got you.
Yeah.
Now, you've had, some playoff experience. You entered the league in 2004. That's when you were a rookie. Yeah. That first season, Marshall Faulk's on the team. You became the head back in the next season in 2005. But that first year, your rookie year, you lost in the divisional round to the Falcons. And then in 2015, years later, with the Patriots and Belichick and Brady, you actually scored in that game against the Broncos. You guys ultimately lost. Broncos went on to beat the Panthers in the Super Bowl. Tell us what makes playoff football different? What makes a team succeed in the playoffs, and why are we seeing so many teams that, flounder? I thought the Bills were going to be a Super Bowl team. Yeah. What is the makeup, what is the DNA you need to succeed in the playoffs?
You're absolutely right. So my first year, I went to the playoffs, took it for granted. I was a backup, thought this would always happen, right? I'm looking at my teammates being Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce.
Yeah.
We'll be back again, right? We just come up short in divisional. That didn't happen for me until my 12th and final season. And looking for a ring, I would go into New England and, go and make it to the AFC Championship, right, to your experience there. I think a lot of teams are not prepared in the sense of the magnitude of this is a 1-game season, right? So a lot of pressure, people handle pressure differently, not only players but coaches as well. So schematically, how you call things, everyone knows what you like to do. The windows of opportunity become a lot tighter because the other team, they actually know their assignments and they do it really well and really fast. So playoff football has the opportunity that's only there for a split second. If you're not executing at the same level all the time with the rest of your teammates, it shows vulnerabilities, and that's kind of why you see a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. They deal with the pressure really well because they trust and know that they're coached well and they can handle the pressure because it's just routine for them at this point.
And they've been there, and that's why I think a lot of people are scared with Lamar. He hasn't shown up maybe in those huge moments. He's looking good now, but Mahomes, 6 years in a row, he's in that conference championship game. It's a big deal to think about that. But you were drafted 24th overall, first-round pick, Oregon State. You grew up in Vegas. You were doing track. You're doing football. You go to the state championship game in your high school year. I mean, it's incredible incredible the year and the career you had as an NFL running back. 12 seasons taking all that punishment. I think you had about 78 TDs, just under 12,000 rushing yards, but you're the all-time leading rusher in Rams history. When you think about guys like Eric Dickerson, Marshall Faulk, what are some of the things you took from Marshall Faulk when you were a rookie? Were you one of those guys who was open and a sponge and took all that information in? Because a lot of young guys might not be amenable to that kind of advice. So how did Marshall impact your career early on, and what did you take with you throughout the rest of your career?
I was very fortunate to get drafted by a team like St. Louis at the time, the Rams. And from instance, what I mean, not only did I get to have a chance to watch Marshall up close and personal, seeing the way he prepared himself week in and week out, but I also had a chance to have teammates like, Orlando Pace and all these other guys that would go on to be in the Hall of Fame. So not only could I just look at the projection through one guy, I saw it through multiple lenses of other guys that have done it at a high level for a long time. So one, I learned preparation. The second thing Marshall kind of challenged me in indirectly, but learning how to run routes out of the backfield. He was such a weapon out of the backfield that he really perfected how to be a receiver in the running back position. Giving Coach Mark Martz at the time 5 and 6 receivers on the field, right? So you could really open up the field against the defense. So I really learned to be more cognizant in the pass game. Really run routes, how to manipulate the defense, how to throw a linebacker off each one-on-one with me. So that's really what I took from being an understudy of Marshall.
And how much of success in the NFL and the league is dictated upon situation? Arthur Smith is using Cordero Patterson more than he's using Bijan Robinson. He's using, Algier more than he's using. So when somebody like that has all that promise and he's got that youthful energy, he's a rookie, he's ready to take the punishment. What advice do you give to a guy like that when, Arthur Smith's out the door now, but how do you succeed when maybe other circumstances are not putting you in a position to succeed?
Yeah, I would say always look at your measurables, right? So, for instance, a guy that's like a Bijan, what does he not do well? Or what is he not doing good as what he could be doing in other aspects of the game? Could it be pass protection, right? So when you have these situations where you're in flux and the team's looking for identity, you really look inward to see how can I make myself better as the team figures it out, the general manager and the president as they figure this out. So if I'm not protecting the quarterback well, I won't be on the field for three or four downs. Well, that limits my opportunities, right? So you look at those opportunities where you could get better. Or maybe you just run between the tackles a little better than you do on the outside or vice versa. So you look for those weaknesses in your game so you could take the focus off what you can't control.
And that's why I'm strong. I'm gung-ho on the Lions because you see how Jahmyr Gibbs pass protects well. You see even how their wide receivers, Amon-Ra is throwing huge blocks and Josh Reynolds. So I like how everybody comes to play in those aspects. A couple last questions. One, Belichick, you played with him in New England. What was he like as a coach?
I loved him. I'm a huge Belichick fan, and the reason being is because I like old school coaches that's tough, right? They treat everyone the same, from the quarterback to the last guy on the roster. If there's a mistake you made, he wants to put it up in front of the team and corrects you in front of it. He treats us all the same. We're not treated with white gloves, everyone, right? I respect a coach like that, then one would go behind your back and say something differently than he would say to you.
You had, Mike Martz, Scott Linehan, Jim Haslett, Steve Spagnuolo, who's defensive coordinator with the Chiefs, Jeff Fisher. So many different coaches, Mike Smith in Atlanta. What was it about Belichick that made him different? What's the secret sauce? If you're trying, 12 different, fettuccine Alfredos, what's the reason this fettuccine Alfredo is that good?
That Alfredo is tried and true. But honestly, though, it goes back to just being able to speak to experience, being able to deliver in a way that's coachable, to stick with one, but also knowing that he's not treating me any different than he would treat anyone else.
So one follow-up. If he is the best coach of all time, which I believe so, why are NFL organizations that have a vacancy at the head coach position not pouncing on the opportunity to hire Bill Belichick right now?
Because just because you're a great coach doesn't mean that lasts into every era, right? And that's my humble opinion. The new athlete, the new football player that's going into the NFL right now requires a different kind of approach. How you coach them, how you relate to them, how you talk to them. I think that approach is new and fresh and needs to be different. I think that's why you see a lot of head coaches are now in their mid-30s, early 40s, because ownerships are realizing that we need a new kind of leadership that will lead this new group of guys.
The great Steven Jackson, all-time leading rusher for the Rams, three-time Pro Bowler. We love you, man. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Guys, we'll be right back after a short break. All right, welcome back to SOS. This is the best part of the show. This is when you get to sound off. I'm going to bring in producer James Edward Berkman the fourth. James, what are people talking about?
So this is from David Houghton on Facebook. Quote, quit showing Taylor Swift.
Okay, a lot of people are saying that. Listen, this is like the first family of America. This is America's first family. Everybody's so invested in this relationship. I'm okay with it, especially if Jason Kelce's in the box having that much fun. I love it. How about you?
I agree. I'm kind of over the Taylor Swift slander because she's done nothing wrong. All she does is go to the games in her box and support her boyfriend. So if you want to get mad at the broadcast, get mad at the broadcast. But Taylor Swift has a following unlike really anything we've seen since the Beatles and Michael Jackson. So that's going to get eyeballs on television. The networks know that, and as long as Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are together, and as long as Travis Kelce is still playing, she's going to be on the screen.
Yeah, it is a lot like Beatlemania, her fan base and her following. I would watch out, David, for the Swift Army. I'm sure they're already knocking down your door right now. Guys, coming up after a short break, we're going to be talking more about what's on your hearts and minds. Stick around with us.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
Yeah, this is Evelyn from Charlestown, Mass. I need to talk about Bill Belichick. Where the hell does he think he's going, talking to the Atlanta Falcons, doing 2 interviews down there? I think the man needs to call it a career. He's had a historic time here in Boston, and we've loved every second of it. But, man, you're 70 years old. Enjoy some retirement. Enjoy Florida. Enjoy your house in Nantucket, and call it a day.
That was Evelyn speaking out about Bill Belichick. We want to get your thoughts on that next week. All you got to do to get your voice heard is give us a call, 702-855-3502, or send us an email at soundoffsports@kvvu.com. We'll see you next time.